Today, we are talking all about helping your team member get better at the skills they need to master to be successful in their business. And by the time we're done, you're going to have 4 easy steps that you'll be able to use with any team member to not only be excited to train with you, but to keep it super simple and easy for you and for them. So whether you've been running your business for years or you're brand new at leading your team, one thing you can't ignore is the importance of providing your team with the best training and development, because at the end of the day, the key to success in network marketing is developing your leaders. Not only is this going to help your business to grow, but it will also help your leaders to be able to grow their business too. But before I share the 4 keys to helping your team master their skills, I want to share a story with you. So for those of you that are Back to the Future fans, we are hopping in our DeLoreans and we are going back in time to when I first started my career in leadership development. And at the time, I was working for a national coffee franchise, and I have to say it was a pretty awesome gig. I was 19, and my job involved traveling the United States, helping new franchisees to open their coffee house and train their team. So at the time, this particular shop, I had already been there for about a week prior, preparing for opening, and we had crossed that threshold, and the shop was 2 days into their operation. So I had a week left with the team there, and on this day, I was working with one of their team members, Tiffany. And my interaction with Tiffany and what I learned from her is something I will never forget. So because the shop had just opened 2 days earlier, everyone was still learning the basics. And today I was working with Tiffany on some of the day-to-day operations that she would need to be able to do, as would any member of the team. And we were tackling a super fun and exciting task, cleaning the stockroom refrigerator and preparing for the milk delivery that was scheduled to arrive later that day. So something important that I want you to remember is that the shop had just opened, which meant that there wasn't a ton of milk stored in this backroom refrigerator. If I had to guess, there was probably about 40 gallons, give or take. And I know for most of you that probably sounds like a lot, but coming from specialty coffee, one thing you should know is that we use a lot of milk. In reality, I would probably argue that we're in the dairy business, because on most days, any shop uses way more milk than coffee. So 40 gallons wasn't much, considering that on an average day, a busy shop can blow through about 15 to 20 gallons of whole milk alone in one day. That's a lot of milk. So anyway, back to Tiffany, and you'll see why that was important in just a second. So I explained to her that the milk delivery days were the perfect time to clean out the stockroom refrigerators, because they would be the most empty, which made cleaning all the shelves and wiping down the walls a lot easier, because you didn't have to navigate through gallons upon gallons of milk. And because the shop had just opened, the fridge wasn't really dirty at all. I mean, it was brand new. So this meant that this would be a super simple and easy task to accomplish in about 10 minutes or less. So I showed her how to wipe down the shelves and the walls, and I also let her know that the most important thing to do, aside from making sure that the fridge was clean, was to rotate the milk. Now, for those of you that don't have a food industry background, rotating product simply means making sure that the oldest product is in the front and the newest product is in the back, so nothing goes bad. Grocery stores use this, coffee shops use this. I use this in my own house, right? When I bring groceries home, I'm going to pull out all the old stuff, put the new stuff in, and then put the old stuff back in front of it. That's what you call rotating, or first in, first out. So after explaining the task to Tiffany, I handed her the towel and the cleaning solution, and I let her know to come check in with me when she was done, and I let her to it. I proceeded up front with some of the other team members, and I started working with them on some additional daily tasks. And before I knew it, 10 minutes had passed. It had probably actually been closer to 30 or 40. You just kind of get caught up in doing one thing or another, and there was no sign of Tiffany. And so I headed to the stockroom to make sure she was okay, because it had been a really long time, and I'm wondering, where is she? And I will never forget what I saw. So there Tiffany was, doing exactly what I had told her to do, or at least how she had interpreted it. She was rotating the milks. And when I say rotating the milks, I mean like taking a gallon of milk, and let me see if I can get this. I can't, but she was like spinning it in circles. I don't know how many times she was spinning it, but she was spinning the gallons of milk, rotating the milks, and putting them back into the fridge. And in that moment, I wanted to die laughing. I mean, it's definitely hilarious now. But instead, I paused and I thought to myself, okay, how could something so easy get so misconstrued? Why was it that she was literally spinning the milks or rotating them instead of rotating the older ones to the front and the newer ones to the back? So was it her? Was she just not the brightest crayon in the box? No. Unfortunately, sad to admit, my friends, this was entirely me. This was my fault. I realized then and there in that moment that as her leader, I had done a poor job because I had failed to be clear and specific in my instruction and had missed some key steps in the training process. And so instead of clearly explaining to her what rotating the milks meant and then demonstrating that for her, I rushed and assumed that she knew what I meant, and that subsequently meant that she did exactly what I asked her to do based on my poor training and instruction and her interpretation. So I tell you this story not only because I hope that you'll get a laugh, but because this was a turning point for me in how I teach skills, and I hope that you'll learn from Tiffany so that you won't come to find your team members spinning their wheels instead of gallons of milk. So how do we avoid the mistakes that I made? Easy. 4 steps. Tell, show, do, review. So the first thing that you want to do is tell your team members what you're going to do. We've all learned how important agendas are, and when it comes to meeting with your customers, it's no different than when it comes to training and developing your team. So first things first is tell them what you are going to do. This not only helps to remove any pressure, but it sets the tone for the rest of your training time. Everybody's on the same page and there aren't any surprises. So with Tiffany, it might have sounded something like, okay, Tiffany, so today we're gonna learn how to clean out the stockroom refrigerator and rotate the milk so the fridge stays clean, and we make sure to use all the milk before it expires. Sound good? Cool. Right. Tiffany knows what we're doing. I know what we're doing, and we are ready to kind of move into the next step of the training process. Step number 2 is to show them what you are going to have them do. So this is really where you're going to demonstrate for them, and this is one of the key steps that I missed. I failed to demonstrate to her what rotating the milk actually meant, which is why instead of shuffling product from back to front, she ended up spinning gallons instead. Be sure to take the time to demonstrate or model what it is that your team member is expected to do. So in this case, I should have taken the time to demonstrate rotating a row of product so that Tiffany knew exactly what it was that she needed to do. With your team members, an example might be doing some role play with them so they can see and hear what it sounds like to invite somebody to learn more about the business or ask for referrals. While all the steps in this training process are important, I would argue this is probably one of the most important because it allows for both you and your team member to be perfectly clear on what it is that they're expected to do, and sets them up for success because it leaves no room for interpretation or confusion. All right, so we've told them what we were going to do. We showed them how we were going to do it, and now we're going to do it with them. Step number 3 is do. It's their turn now. Showing them is important, but taking the time to do it with them is also just as important. This not only is going to build trust and shows your team member that you are patient and that they are worth your time, but it also creates a safe space for them to learn and make the mistakes with you. This way, they'll be able to do whatever it is they need to do successfully on their own, and they're going to have the confidence that they know how to do it right. So with Tiffany, this is where instead of walking off and leaving her on her own, I should have showed the patience to hang out there for a minute and have her give it a shot. This would have not only provided an opportunity for her to ask any questions if she had any, for instance, what does rotating the milk mean? But also to provide some space for recognition as well when she completed the task successfully. All right, step number 4 is to review. After all is said and done, the last thing is to review everything you covered so that you and your team member knows exactly what success looks like moving forward. And here's another key to helping them become masters at their skills. Instead of you repeating all the steps that you just taught them, have them walk you through step by step and repeat it back to you. This will continue to build trust because it shows your team member that you are listening and you're paying attention, and you'll also be able to catch any places that they still might be a little fuzzy on and spend some more time in that specific area, which will only help to further build their confidence and make sure that they're going to be able to do it on their own when you're done. So I hope that the next time you meet with your team member and are training them on a new skill that you will put these 4 keys to tell, show, do, and review into practice. And I'd love to hear how it goes. So feel free to shoot me an email at kasha@emergesalestraining.com.